Hello, boys and girls. Jaybird Challenge number 19 today. And Uncle Jaybird is just going to tell a story. It's going to be story time here. Couldn't think of a really good subject, so in a pinch, I can always pull up some story from my past. I'm good at just blabbing about my life growing up and stuff. And I've I don't know. I've mentioned in the past another website that I was on called VU, which closed down a few weeks ago, unfortunately. And when I was on this website, one of the first questions I asked a lot of people was, "Have you ever had a tree fort or played in a tree fort or tree house or something like that?" And I got a lot of good responses uh, from that question. Well, I don't think I've ever actually answered it myself, though, even though it was my question. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you all about this tree fort that I had when I was a kid. Um, when I was like 7 years old, my parents lived in Orlando, where I live now, and they moved up to Cullman, Alabama, which is a little rural city right near Birmingham. And we had this big house. It was in a very rural area. I mean, there was only a few houses where I lived. There was our house. There was a house directly across the street, like one up the hill, and like a few in construction, being built at the time in the area. But there really weren't a lot of people where I lived. So we made friends with the people across the street. There was actually two brothers that lived in the house. They were like 12 and 8, and my brother and I were like 14 and 7. So it was a good combination. And my brother used to go out in the woods and go squirrel hunting with them, but my dad wouldn't let me go. He thought it was too dangerous, so he bought me a BB gun when I was 7, so I could run around in the woods and have fun with my BB gun. And while we were there was like our two houses that were across the street from each other, and there was a long road that divided us, and there was a big section of woods on our side by my house, and across the road by our neighbor's house. And one day, me and my brother were just going through the woods, and we came across two trailers that had been left in the woods on the end of a dead end street from where they'd been building houses. And obviously, they'd been there for a long time because they were all covered with, vines and bushes and stuff. And we went into them, and one of them was open, and the other one was closed, but it wasn't locked. So we wanted to open one, and the water had got in, and all the wood and stuff that was inside was all rotten. But when we opened the other one, it was just filled with lumber and nails and all the kinds of stuff that you'd need to build something. So my brother's like, yes. And he got me, and we started hauling all that lumber into the woods and found a very centrally located area with a nice tree to build the tree fort. And my brother built the coolest tree fort you'd ever seen. They had like 2 levels to it, a short level that you could like crawl around in, and then the upper level with a big like room. And on the outside there were like slots around the sides of the walls, so you could like look out and like throw things or shoot out of, like a fort, with slots for guns. And he built a big dropping platform so you could get into the fort and lower it down with ropes, and it had like little knobs on it so you could walk up the drawbridge and then pull it back up. And in the back of the fort there was he cut a hole in the floor, and there was a branch above it, very tight, a knotted rope to lower down so you could like have an emergency exit in the back of the fort. And we got this thing almost nearly built before the guys across the street noticed what we were doing, and then they found the second trailer filled with all the crappy wood, and that's all they had left. So they decided to build themselves a fort across the street in their woods, and it was just horrible in comparison to the fort me and my brother built. But we sort of jury rigged the whole area. We used to play war games with these two guys across the street, and there were some animal paths that led in towards to where our fort were, and we built like tripwires across all these animal paths and extra tripwires in the woods around the fort. Basic stuff, like thin wires with cans attached to them. Though we did dig a few holes along the path and put thin pieces of wood over it and fill it with grass and stuff, so it'd be like a hole for people to fall in. And we just had a blast in our tree fort, playing war games against them in their tree fort. And it's just some really good memories. And I also remember near the tree fort, I actually bagged my first squirrel as a kid hunting. Like I said, I couldn't go hunting with the regular guys because I was too young. But I came across this squirrel in the woods one day right near the fort, and somebody had shot it with like a 22 or something, so it was wounded, and it was up in the tree, and I spotted it, and I shot it with my BB gun and killed it, and took it home to my mom, and I was like, "Mom, you have to cook this for me for dinner," and she was like, "Ugh, I put that thing in the garbage." She was horrified because she hated rats and mice and anything small and furry like that. So when I brought this dead squirrel home for dinner, she was like, "No, garbage can, young man, that thing went." So I was a little disappointed at that, but I still have a lot of good memories of that tree fort and living there. It was a fun place to grow up. So there you go. Random story from Uncle Jaybird. So feel free to respond if you want. Thumbs up, thumbs down, make a comment. And if you're going to do a video response, you don't have to talk about tree forts. That's just, what I was talking about. You can talk about anything, any childhood memory that you have that's cool or fun to recall. So, thanks, people. Cheers.